Hello, everyone. This is Debra Richardson, and today I am putting the AP in Happy, where accounts payable teams are empowered to protect the vendor master file from fraud. This podcast will give a voice to accounts payable team members by talking about the growing reality of cyber attacks in their world and which vendor setup and vendor management techniques they can apply to protect the vendor master file from fraud. Need training? Visit the Vendor Process Training Center to enroll in your choice of weekly live and on demand training sessions. Plus, get access to vendor setup form templates and reference tools that will help you and your team avoid fraud, fines, and bad vendor data. So, sign up for a free account to get access to free training sessions, vendor process FAQs, and a resource library with information you need to manage your vendor master file. Visit training.debrarrichardson.com today. The link will be in the show notes. If one of your vendor validations is checking with the state of your vendor, but find that the vendor is not registered with the state of their address, now what? Keep listening. Welcome to episode 359. Vendor is not registered in their state. Here's what to do next. So many of you, and I have actually added checking with the state to vendor validations, or I've actually started this year recommending it because if you think about it, searching and finding a vendor in the U.S. state that they are registered does a couple of things. One, it is, yet another validation to verify that the vendor is real, right? Because you want to avoid fraud. And the biggest thing that I like that it does is it is one of the few free places that we can go to match a vendor to an address. Because even if we do, go to USPS and do the lookup tool and get the address standardized, get it formatted so that it's ready for mailing. Also, a great way to avoid duplicate vendors because now you can search by address because they're all formatted the correct way. But anyway, when you do that, the USPS lookup tool, even though it gives you the formatted standardized address and verifies that the address is real, it still does not confirm that the vendor is at that address. But if you find that vendor going to the state, and typically you'll look at the address of the vendor, go to that state, do a business entity search. And when you find that vendor and that vendor has registered with the state with that same address, right? Now you have a great validation. And maybe your vendor has multiple addresses, but that address that is listed on the state website should be their headquarters address. And so you should be able to find that and again verify that your vendor is real and that address is real and matches to the vendor, like the vendor is at that address. So that's really great that you can do that. But what happens when vendors are not registered in the state that they are headquartered in or that they gave you? All the addresses they gave you, right? For the mailing address, for the tax address, for I don't know, the shipping address, right? Headquarters address, like all of those addresses are in one particular state, they're not registered in that state. And why could that be? It could be nothing wrong, right? There are states where they have less cost for doing business in those states. And so vendors may be registered there. There are states where the laws are more beneficial to businesses, so they register in those states. Delaware is a big one. And let me just say that that was why I thought of this podcast episode to begin with, because I received, and this would be from my clients, so it'd be more on the AR side, although I mean it's applicable for AP and vendors too. But they sent me an email to say that they moved and that all of my invoices go forward needed to make sure that it was at their new address. And they added in the email, notification that they were registered in Delaware. Not surprising. You know, uh, Businesses do register in Delaware. I think they have favorable tax treatment and business laws, although I can't be sure about that. But plenty of businesses do register in Delaware for one reason or another. And I thought, well, isn't that convenient? Because that could be, I mean, it was nice that they were telling us that because they obviously know that, their clients will look them up, right? May look them up in a particular state, in the state that the address was in to verify it, and they wouldn't find them. So they told, right, all of their clients that this is the state that they are registered in, right, to do state validation. And one of the reasons they probably know is because they are one of those third parties that recommends different vendor validations. And so they know those things happen. But if you get an email like that, and it's from a fraudster, well, of course they're going to tell you, a different state that they may be registered in, or maybe that's part of the ruse. And so I thought, can't trust that. So now, if you are in that position, even if your vendor does tell you what state they are registered in, how do you verify that? And so there is one place that you can go that I know of. It could be more, but this is one. And guess what? It's free. And this site is called Open Corporates. And their website is opencorporates.com. And on their homepage, it says, fresh, standardized, auditable information direct from official primary sources across 140,000 plus jurisdictions. It's supposed to be legal entity data that you can trust. And when you look in the search field, it says you can search 222,884,745 companies. Wow. So what I did is I did a search of my company name just to see what comes up. So when you click it, you get to the results page. And now it says at the top, the open database of the corporate world. But anyway, what comes up is my company name, and I have actually three different lines here. And they all, by the way, have a U.S. flag, so that indicates that I am a U.S. company. But the first two are inactive. And so what it shows is that I originally set up my company in Oklahoma. And I also have a trademark on it too, so it told me that as well. But then it showed that I went to Michigan and I set it up as a branch because it was at that time I didn't move my company registration from Oklahoma. I just registered as doing business right in Michigan. But eventually right? I changed it to just Michigan. And so both of those result lines are inactive. And the active one indicates that I am registered in Michigan. So if anyone had any other address, maybe they had my old Oklahoma address, and then they went into Oklahoma and saw that I was not active there anymore. So again, they're at the same place that, I named this podcast, right? Now what? And here's what you could have done, or that person that's looking for me could have done. Next is to come into Open Corporates, search by my name, and then my uh, state that I am doing business in will come up. Now, there's some other information too that could come up depending on the company. And so I only did the search on me, but you might find some other information that will come up in the results that might be useful. So, as an example, that company that I received the email from to say that, they have a new address, make sure you use it. And by the way, they are incorporated or set up in Delaware or registered in Delaware. So I did put their name in and I searched them on Open Corporates, and actually, quite a bit of information came up. But you know what? One thing that came up was their address in the state, the new one. Also, it indicated that they were registered in a different state, but that state is listed as a branch. And so I kept going down and looking at some of the other result lines. And one of the things that I found was their company that was registered in Delaware. So that was a confirmation that Delaware is where this company is registered. And not just that, it validates that the company is real. It has actually quite a few lines here that identify different branches of the company. So it looks like they have some offices in quite a few states. So some of which are inactive. And I also found the original address that they changed from an inactive branch as well. And so you might want to, put this on your validation list in case you have to do some additional research for a vendor. And I'll put a link to it in the show notes, but the website is just opencorporates.com. All right, so short one today. Thanks, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the 359th episode of the Putting the AP in Happy podcast, where accounts payable teams are empowered to protect the vendor master file from fraud. Don't forget to check the show notes for the links mentioned in the podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode, consider subscribing and writing a review of my podcast on the platform that you use to listen. Stay happy.